sixth deadliest virus in the 21st century. Medicine has made greatest strides in the past several centuries, eliminating or containing devastating viruses such as smallpox and polio. But some viruses like Ebola continue to confront humanity as major global health threats. Ebola virus. We all know about the 2014 to 2016 Ebola virus outbreak that occurred in West Africa, the largest outbreak since the discovery of virus in 1976. But did you know that more than 11,000 people died during this outbreak? Scientists do not yet know where the rare yet fatal Ebola virus comes from, but they believe that it is animal-borne, based on the nature of similar viruses, with fruit bats being the most likely source. The bats carrying the virus can transmit it into other animals such as primates, spreading it to the human population. Human-to-human exposure and transmission are also possible via direct contact with affected blood and body fluids. Symptoms of Ebola virus can be suddenly and include fever, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea, rash, impaired kidney and liver function, and internal and external bleeding. Of note, the average case fatality rate is approximately 50%, according to the World Health Organization, because there is no proven treatment for the Ebola virus. Supportive care and treatment of specific symptoms and often used to improve survival outcomes, but some experimental treatments including convalescent serum and antibody treatment has been administered. Furthermore, a concerned research effort to develop a vaccine has been underway for some time. Lassa fever virus, discovered in 1969 in Lassa, Nigeria. This pathogen caused hemorrhagic fever and multi-organ failure. Mortality due to virus is high, with death due to vascular collapse. In area where the virus is epidemic, asymptomatic infection is common. The virus is most commonly transmitted by exposure to the urine of infected small rodent in food or water source. The disease can be only spread via inhalation of air contaminated with infected rodent secretions. Especially, airborne transmission may occur during cleaning activities such as sweeping. Human-to-human transmission is common in healthcare settings where proper personal protective equipment is not available or infrequently used. No vaccine for this virus exists, with prevention taking for the form of infection and rodent control. Hantavirus. In 1993, an outbreak of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome caused by exposure to Cinnabar hantavirus occurred in New Mexico and Arizona. In influenza-like disease is followed by acute respiratory failure. Deer mice serve as reservoir for the virus, with exposure and transmission possible via inhalation of deer mice urine or feces. Although rare, virus may be transmitted if a rodent with a virus bites a human. Campers and hikers are therefore especially at risk. Fortunately, this virus is not spread via human-to-human contact. Early symptoms of infection include fatigue, fever, and muscle ache, particularly in large muscle groups. Late symptoms about 4 to 10 days following the initial phase of illness, including cough and shortness of breath. Because people don't have antibodies to the virus, symptomatic infections are known with mortality rates of 38%. According to the CDC, there is no treatment, cure, or vaccine for the virus. However, survival outcomes may be improved by early diseases recognized and receipt of medical care, including oxygen therapy for severe respiratory illness. Japanese encephalitis virus. This virus is the most frequent case of epidemic viral encephalitis in several countries across Asia, with an estimated 68,000 clinical cases annually. According to WHO, in fact 24 countries in the WHO, Southeast Asia and Western Pacific regions have epidemic Japanese encephalitis virus, putting over 3 billion people at risk for infection. Symptoms include fever, neck rigidity, altered consciousness, headache, tremors, incoordination and convulsion. Not only is the death rate of high this disease, but survivors experience neurologic and psychiatric sequelae. This disease is spread to humans by infected mosquitoes of Culex species that live in Asian rice fields with reservoirs including water birds and pigs. An inactivated vaccine does exist for protection against this virus, and mosquito protection is recommended among these at high risk of exposure because no antiviral therapy yet exists for infected patients' treatment in symptomatic. Rabies. Rabies holds the distinction of being nearly 100% fatal in untreated. The virus is found worldwide in more than 150 countries and territories. Rabies infections cause tens of thousands of globally deaths, mostly in Africa and Asia. The incubation period is generally 2 to 3 months with initial symptoms of fever with pain and tingling, prickling or paresthesia of the wound site. Fatal inflammation of the brain and spinal cord usually develops as the virus progresses to the central nervous system. Humans infected with rabies may exhibit one of two forms of disease, furious rabies or paralytic rabies. According to WHO, individuals with furious rabies may exhibit signs of hyperactivity, excitable behavior, hyperphobia and aerophobia with death according after a few days due to cardiorespiratory arrest. Those with paralytic rabies, which accounts for 20% of all human cases, gradually become paralyzed, starting at the wound site. Following a coma, death eventually occurs. Dog bites are the most common cases of infection, followed by bats immediately after a bite. Rabies shots are curative. Additionally, after contact with the rabid animal, it is important to wash the wound with soap and water as infection usually occurs upon exposure of the mucous membrane to the saliva. Marburg virus. Both the Marburg and Ebola virus are the members of filovirus family and are characterized by hemorrhagic fever. Other symptoms include fever, headache, sore throat, myalgia, arthralgia, epigastric pain, vomit and diarrhea. In 1967, the Marburg virus was discovered the cause human illness by researchers in Marburg, Germany following exposure to green monkey epidemic to Uganda. Bats are thought to be natural reservoir for the virus, but this hypothesis has yet to be confirmed. The death rate for the Marburg virus is as high as 90%, with infected people usually dying of bleeding into the gastrointestinal tract and skin, shock disseminated intravascular coagulation, and multi-organ failure. No antiviral therapy or other vaccine exists for the Marburg virus.